estate planning seminar video series. Typically we do this as an annual in-person meeting, but we decided that we're going to do a 3-part series to introduce estate planning to you at home. So I'm Christy Line, the Executive Director of Foundation at Prairie Ridge Health. Joining me is Charlie Eggert from Eggert Law out of Waterloo and Columbus. Today we're going to focus on the intro to estate planning as well as the basics of wills and trusts and how you can provide for your family and those things that are important to you. Charlie, what is estate planning?
Christy, estate planning is a process for road mapping and laying out what happens to your assets and possessions upon your death.
I feel like people come to our estate planning seminars to find out how it's best to provide for their family and to provide for the charities and organizations that mean most to them. They want a sense of ease to make sure that upon their passing, their family is already grieving. And so this is a way for them to ensure that not only are their assets going to who they want them to be, but also just providing that security for their family when it's all said and done. So let's dive in. Charlie, what is a will?
A will is a document that you roadmap where your possessions go and who is going to be in charge upon your death. So whether it's naming your children, your favorite charities, and the person who's nominated to be in charge, that person is called a personal representative.
All right, so what is a trust?
That's a complicated question, Christy. So there are actually 2 types of trusts. There's a testamentary trust, there's a living trust, which you create while you're still living. The testamentary trust is created upon your death through the probate process. 2 different types of living trusts, revocable, irrevocable, and those are applied in very specific situations. Revocable trusts are much more common but do not cover what an irrevocable trust can do for you.
So everyone needs a will. How do you know if you also need a trust?
Why does everybody need a will? Maybe would be the question, but everybody needs a will because without a will, you're not road mapping where you want your assets to go to. So you're not naming who's in charge, you're not naming who receives your assets. It defaults to whatever the state has laid out by statute. So most people, for a lot of people, that's fine. For many other people, that is not okay. So you want to name who's going to be in charge and you want to keep this as simple as possible for people.
How do you know if you also need a trust?
Well, that's a very technical decision to make, and it should be made with your advisors, so your tax preparer, your financial advisor, your attorney. And there are many situations where trust can be applied. So it's not just because you have a lot of money. Just because you have a lot of money does not necessarily mean that trust is best for you. So trusts come into play due to family dynamics, types of assets that you have. So for example, if you have assets that are out of state, if you own a business, there's a good chance that you will have a trust as part of your estate plan.
So how do you include your family or charitable organizations in your will or trust?
So this that question is almost like, it's so simple. You just put them in there. That's it. Just like through your will or your trust, you can name your favorite charities and along with your children as beneficiaries. It's a complex answer because you name them in your will and then you name beneficiaries on. This is a common problem I see. So they name their kids on all of their life insurance, 401k, and in their will it says that everything goes to, or there's a charitable bequest to Prairie Ridge Health, and if the beneficiary designations are not consistent with what the will says, it will not end up going where it's supposed to go. So your entire estate plan, that's part of the planning process, it has to be coordinated. Your beneficiary designations, which we will be talking about, need to line up with the will. And likewise with a trust, it has to be funded. There have to be assets sufficient to cover the bequest. So that's another thing that turns into an issue. Sometimes there's a will, but there's not actually enough assets to cover the bequest.
All right, so I think that's enough for this time, and join us next week when we cover probate and the use of beneficiaries. Thank you.